Auto Site Design is a design tool that allows me to work with 3D polylines and a surface in memory to generate surfaces that are a combination of lines projected to surfaces and 3D polylines. It's ideal for designing a building pad, for example. So let's do that as an example. See this red rectangle? We're going to use it to design a building pad. Before we start, I'm going to type tin here, and I'm going to generate a tin of my ground surface. You always need to do that before you perform a design. Once that's done, open up the Auto Site Design dialog. In this dialog, we can define our cut slopes and our fill slopes, and you'll notice how you have a choice of beginning and end so that you can design in a transition if necessary. I'm going to set direction for both. That means that I want to create a design that includes both cut and fill. Side control I'm going to leave at point so that I have manual control over that choice. A stripping surface, I'm not going to choose this option, but if I turn that on, what it would do is create a new surface within your daylight lines, and it would allow you to specify a depth so that you could, for example, predict how much volume is removed if you stripped away the turf. Including nested polylines, I'm going to show in a later example. My existing surface is already set as ground, and I've given a name to a new surface that's going to be created. It'll be called Design. Let's pick on OK here. Now, in the command line, it prompts me to tell it whether I'm going to draw a 3D polyline or if I'm going to select one that's already in the screen. I will pick S to select. I will pick my 3D polyline. I will select a place outside. And now you can see the daylight line was generated, and now a tin is being created to show us the new surface that's been derived from both the original surface and the polylines that I gave it. So we've designed a building site. Now let me show you a more advanced version. Let's go in here. Let's do a little cleanup first. I'll delete that daylight line. I'm going to go into Surface Operations, and I'm going to delete the two surfaces that we don't need. And before I move on, I'm going to draw another tin, and I'll make sure that I'm drawing the tin on the ground surface, or rather showing the tin. Okay, so now we're ready to generate a more interesting building site. I'll thaw this layer that has some additional 3D polylines that allow me to use this polyline and the green polylines to design a holding tank instead, a more interesting type of site design. Let's go back into Auto Site Design. I'll make sure that I'm using ground as my existing surface, and I'll make a new design surface, but this time I'll call it tank. What I'll do differently this time is check on Include Nested Polylines. That'll allow it to include the green polylines as part of the design. I pick on OK. I'm prompted in the command line. If I want to draw or select an existing polyline, I'll hit S to select. Then I pick on my 3D polyline, and I pick a point outside. Now you can see the daylight line is being drawn. Now you can see a new tin is being created to represent the tank design surface. And there's our result. Now let me recreate that tin again, and we'll take another look at it. So this time it's a tin of the tank surface, and this time I will draw it as a polyface. So you can see there's a lot more break lines that show you the details of that tank, and let's change our perspective and I'll go and I'll use visual styles so that we get a more realistic view of the newly created surface. So you get a good view of it from that perspective. You can see we've got some fill, and you can see over here there's just a little bit of cut. One other thing that we can do, now that we've generated two surfaces, is you have everything you need in memory to generate a volume report. So we can go back to Model, we can go to Surface Volume, and I can pick ground for one surface, tank for the other surface, pick on OK, and there is a volume report telling me how much we need to cut and fill to create that surface. Thanks for your interest in AutoSite design.